Alright, so in this video I'm going to talk about how to solve a quadratic equation by graphing. I have this equation right here. Now one thing you might want to do if you're solving either by factoring or graphing or any of the strategies, if it's not set equal to 0, one strategy is to first solve so that you have 0 on one side. So in this case I'm going to subtract over 3p and have p squared minus 3p equals 88. Then I'm going to subtract over 88 so that I have p squared minus 3p minus 88 equals 0. Now if I'm solving by graphing, then if I think about this quadratic equation, it would be a parabola when I graph it, and I want to know where that parabola is going to be equal to 0. So essentially I'm looking for the roots or zeros of the quadratic. So let's take a look. Remember, if you're graphing, we're going to be looking at x and y. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this as x squared minus 3x minus 88. You might need to adjust your window. Mine's already adjusted so that I can see where it's crossing the x-axis, but you might have to play with that, so just be careful. I can see that with this parabola, I'm going to have two solutions right here. One spot that it's crossing the x-axis, or would be equal to 0, is over here. It looks like negative something, and over here there's a positive root as well. So in order to find that exact value, you can go to Menu, Analyze Graph, which is number 6, and then number 1 is a 0 tool where you can find the zeros. It's going to ask you lower bound, which means you need to click to the left of the 0. Click. Then it'll ask upper bound, which means you need to click to the right of the 0 and click. And it'll give you the coordinates of that 0, and it tells you that the x value right there is at -8. So x equals -8 is going to be one of our solutions. Let's go ahead and find the one on the other side. We can click Menu again, Analyze Graph, 0. This time come over here to the left side of this 0 and click. When it asks you upper bound, go to the right side of the 0 and click, and it gives you that coordinate 11, 0. So your x coordinate that would make this equal to 0 would be 11. So our two solutions would be -8 and 11, which should be the same thing whether we use the quadratic formula or we factor any other of our strategies. Another strategy that you might use from the beginning, if you didn't want to solve for 0, another option, if I just clear this out here, is that you could have graphed these two as separate functions. You could have graphed this quadratic and this as a line, and you could have found where they're equal to each other or the intersection. So just for fun, let's go ahead and see if we can graph that and if we get the same answer. So we have x squared on the left side. We can think about that as one function, and then we have 3x plus 88 if we leave all of that on the other side, which is a line, and we want to know where those two are equal to each other, so we want to find these intersections right here. Let's see if we get -8 and 11 since we already know our solutions. We can go to Analyze Graph again. Instead of finding the 0, because we're not finding the 0, we're finding where these two are going to intersect each other. We're going to go to 4, intersection. Let's head on over and click again, lower bound and upper bound. Lower bound to the left, click. Upper bound to the right, click. And notice that x value again is -8, so I feel good about this. Let's go over to the other side. Find the intersection again. Let's see if this one gives us 11. Click, and to the right, click, and there we go. We get 11 as our x coordinate. So either way, we should get the same solution. You don't need to use both strategies, whichever one you feel like is the most efficient and the best.